first time read the script in about February, which was roughly 5 months before my final presentation for Exodus. My first reaction to it was just the sheer joy and questions how on earth this could be done in theatre, and what is it? It felt like a massive, very exciting puzzle which we need to put together. We understood right away that what's needed is something incredibly vivid, a special kind of world where we can shift the reality ever so slightly and make this transition between what we think is normal and then when the story progresses, how everything just sort of goes absolutely mental and the real world is disappearing into this technicolor universe of madness. From the very start, Debbie and I were talking about David LaChapelle, the photographer. We were talking about specific music videos we both enjoyed, and it was a lot of pop culture mixed with a lot of fine art as well. I kept on thinking about massive Renaissance painting or a biblical painting where everything is just so very stylistic and frozen in time and very, very proper, but mixed with absolute camp and absolute just explosion of color and explosion of everything. So we sort of landed up in this as the base for design, and and then we started thinking about all sorts of practical ways. For me, when I first read the text as well, it was apparent that it can't be static. There needs to be some movement from the get-go, because we do change quite a lot within the train sequence, and everything is a whirlpool. And I was thinking about how it's almost like a carousel, and it's almost like very much sort of they're always running around this train, and it's just quite a lot of the movement there. So that's why kind of from those ideas, the idea about having a bit of a revolve or like revolving platforms, we went through a lot of practical chats, conversations about how we can make a revolve green. It's quite difficult, but we had a fantastic technical team on the show, properly, just a group of wonderful people who worked so hard into making this into what it is. And I cannot believe that what we've requested, what I've designed, what we've showed in May when I presented my final card is actually what we're sitting on now. A lot of work has been done by a set building company, and from all of the technical heads of the technical departments and TS and technical stage manager who's been touring with the show, because it's insanely difficult. It's insanely difficult to make it on a green, and it's insanely difficult to make it travel and fringeable as well. So it's all of those different challenges up in one. So it's not just green, but it's fringe, and it's also tours in Scotland to some of the tiniest places and some of the bigger places before we land at the Tron. Yeah, so there's been a lot of making dots and joining the lines there. So rehearsal period is really when we were very fortunate to get the set on the second week of rehearsal, which was fantastic because we could see how we can adopt it. And I think from having the set with us throughout the time, there were a lot of kind of just piecing things together in terms of the scenic. For me, for example, I've reworked a couple of bits on the other side of the set. I've adjusted some colors. So I think that was just looking at the set, looking at how everything's working, thinking like, maybe I want different color here, maybe different color here. And then just constantly having a conversation with Debbie into how the revolves are working, and just thinking about, okay, when do we stop revolving with the stage manager? When does the cast take over? When do we revolve? How, like, what's the dramaturgy there? What's the design elements within that movement? Trying to think very intelligently throughout that. Yeah. There were a lot of responding to what's been happening in the room too. We're faced with quite a lot of very interesting challenges. Like the show, from the get-go, we knew that the show must be green. so it must follow the rules of the Green Book. The Green Book is a wonderful initiative across several larger and smaller theatres in the UK. And it's a sort of a programme agreement to create theatre more sustainably, to avoid waste, to promote collaboration between theatre, exchange of materials. And there are several steps you could do and several sort of points in percentages you can achieve to make your show sustainable. And what we've took it upon ourselves to achieve is 75% or above of everything, of all the materials and everything across departments to be sourced sustainably or has a previous life. Those chairs came from the Tron Theatre. I've picked them up. I had to clean them up and I had to reupholster them. I know that so we've got blind behind it, and the blind construction came from an absolutely random person of Gumtree who production manager Elle Taylor had to meet at silly o'clock in the morning, somewhere very, very remote. And it's been a running joke throughout. I know this is, I think, from a proper train, and that's been reused. All the wood came through Pretty Scenic, who are our set makers. And I think some of it came from Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. There were lots of it from NTS as well. The truss is from NTS. Yeah, I think everything is reused. I know the plastic we use for the light boxes, which is behind me, is a very special sustainable plastic, which again our production manager was so proud she managed to find it. So yeah, we wanted to get plastic from somewhere where it's been used before, but that wasn't possible, so she got the second best option after that. To work green, there's a lot of opportunities there because you are, as a designer, really looking at you're dissecting the design and seeing how you can make things smarter and better, and what is needed and what's not needed, and yeah, how you can use better materials, not use so much plastic. And it's really difficult to have that from the beginning, because as designer we're always encouraged, when I studied design I was always encouraged to dream up big and then scale down to what you can achieve. But I think working green, it's a little bit different. So you do dream big, but you dream big with kind of sustainable thoughts in mind. And I think thinking about Exodus, the main difficulty was because we needed for this beast to rotate and be weight bearing as well. And in the real kind of outside of the Green Book, we would have done it with steel. And that's how you can prove that everything is very safe, climbable, weight bearing, will rotate like a charm, will fit everywhere. But sadly, steel is not very sustainable, and sustainable steel is not weight bearing. So it was a little bit of kind of a journey to figure out how that works, but that didn't stop us, thankfully. In terms of the tour, so we have to look at what's the smallest venue and what's the smallest door. So to make sure that the biggest panel I want to be solid can still fit through that door. I know that this panel here of the train, I know that Lemon Tree, getting at the Lemon Tree Theatre is the smallest door of our tour. So I had to make sure that the diameter of it could fit through that. And I remember I had a conversation with Elle, and I did chop some off in my design before we started constructing, just to make sure that that's achievable. But to me, that's beautiful, because if I know that this is a challenge and this is happening, I can already adjust my technical design thinking, and I can tweak the model, and I can make the size it needs to be. It's really joyful to be able to solve that. Yeah. And in terms of the French, that's just, I, as a designer, have much less of an overlook on it rather than technical stage manager, whose job is to put fringe up and down. And for Exodus, it was Malcolm Stephen, and he's fantastic. And we've always, we had a conversation with him about, I've shared designs with him and I've asked, is this okay? Are we within 45 minutes changeover time? He's like, yeah, that's fine. it's okay. But you're pushing here and you're pushing here. So it's just a conversation with him and with NCS as well. And I'm more tapping into their knowledge as a designer and sort of hoping that what I give them fits well. But throughout the process, we've been checking in, and every time it was like, well, this is a little bit too tight. I was thinking about, okay, how it can be done easier. From the white card design meeting into the final design meeting, we had one of the bigger shifts in design, which was we lost the timber base for our set and we've adopted the truss construction. And that was directly answering the turnaround time, because it would have been quite difficult to construct everything, construct the frame with the timber and make it safe and weight bearing. But adding the truss, that saved all of the issues. So what we see here, what we've got here is a truss-based construction with 2 doors on the sides and then 2 revolving panels. And because we do jump a lot from place to place, I had to think about how I can facilitate some of the earlier scenes, which are quite more normal than when we land in the middle in the massive sequence in the train. Yeah, so at the moment we're seeing this is the train part, train side of the smaller revolve. Yeah, and at the back we have side which is mostly painted in a very pastel, lovely pink. And this one is the crazy side. This one is the Technicolor madness side. And yeah, at the very beginning when we had the intro, we always talked about using a lot of projection design. And we thought that the intro scene would be largely projection. And from the very, very beginning, it was a thought that however we're starting with the design and however we're starting with the set, it needs to be projectable on everything. So that's the reason why there is a lot of pastel pink on that part of the set, is to make it easy and projection friendly. And then here I've just allowed myself to run a bit loose. In terms of the scenic for the set and color for the costume, I had an idea of when you have old TVs back in the day, when you didn't have a signal, they projected this image with all the block colors and the black and white patterns. So I thought about that as a kind of a response to when the reality slightly breaks within the play. It's almost like the matrix is a bit broken and you're getting this kind of hints of it's not right, is it? Like the flowers are green and the sky is purple, like it's just not right. So I think a little bit of that thinking has traveled to scenic and the costume as well. Not a little bit, a lot of it. And everything, it's not realistic. Nothing is realistic here. Like we do have train chairs, but everything else in terms of the color is very pushed up, and it's very, very much, like a Technicolor dream nightmare. So I enjoyed the kind of the blurring the line between the reality and caricature. And in terms of the costume for the characters, that was the same. I really wanted block colors, really wanted bold shades, and kind of not shying away from anything which is a little bit too vivid. I really wanted Azia to be in royal blue. I really wanted her to have a pussy bow blouse, which is pink, and I thought that's fitting quite a lot with what I've done with the set. And yeah, everything just interlinked. As I was coloring this and I was coloring the costumes, I was thinking how it can all work together as an ensemble with the set. And yeah, it was a great pleasure to do that, actually. From the beginning, Debbie and I talked about using a lot of height, and she was really keen on having a video projection. And I think for a piece like that, I was very on board as well from the get-go, because it did feel like, to add to that universe we're trying to build, we need a layer of kind of animated reality on top, whatever that is. When we were thinking about this as a construction, kind of the idea of a screen came right away, and it was very natural, and having this massive screen on the top. And it felt quite natural to have that as part of it. I think I was probably do a bit more contrast between the real world and what is perceived as a normality at the very end into what is madness and how it all shifts and how it all like dissembles in between our, like in front of our eyes. Yeah, more thinking about that. But at the same time, you know, I'm also would be very curious to talk to Debbie and think, you know, okay, like if we would do it differently, what would we do? You don't design in a vacuum. You always design with your team, and you design with your fellow creatives and the house, and it's all just such a collaborative job. And I think in that moment, I'm really happy with everything what happened and everything we've made here.